What time is it? It's Packard Folks at time. Hat? Check. Shirt? Check. Pants? Optional. Mug? Double check. Check us out at cafepress.com/PackardPokesat where you can get all this great merchandise and more.
Do you like Packard Pokesat and want to hear it on demand and on the go? Download the free app today at Stitcher.com. Available on iOS, Android, Nook, and iPad.
This is Packard Pokesat, and I'm poking at your news. Hello, everybody. This is Packard Pokesat, the midweek show. This is episode 9, 8, 5, 7, 8. It's 8.
Pick a number between 1 and 20.
1 and 20. It's a number between 1 and 20. It's episode 8 of season 5. I knew this season thing is going to trip me up eventually, and it does all the time.
It's confusing to me.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. Connie, do you have a story for us tonight?
Yeah. Trump's nominee to be the USDA chief scientist is not a scientist. Are you shocked? Are you shocked?
Shouldn't that be like a requirement for the job? I mean, if you go for a job that says you need to be a scientist, and that's right in the title, you need to be a scientist, it doesn't mean you hire the cook.
Yeah, well, actually, sometimes there's some leeway in government offices, but yeah, it's actually one of the more irritating things about this. One of the other senators said, well, there's a very close relationship between science and decisions that government makes in science that impact the economy, because what this guy here, his name is Sam Clovis, and he looks like he should be a boss hog wannabe in the Dukes of Hazzard. When I saw Clovis, I'm going, wow, that's a really redneck name. Yeah, there's a groundhog that's missing its male. Anyway, the chief. All right, so Sam Clovis is not a scientist. He holds a doctorate, but it's in public administration and not a scientific discipline. He's currently the White House liaison to the USDA, and he's been named now by Trump, so he still has to be approved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, he was a candidate for the Senate in Iowa in 2014, and Clovis told public radio that he was skeptical that human activity is driving climate change. I've looked at the science, and I have enough of a science background to know when I am being boofed. And a lot of what we see is junk science. Now, my ex-husband used to use that word boofed. I know what that means. All right.
Right.
Well, yeah. It's more a term of never mind. Two guys.
No, what is the term, Connie?
Deeply closeted, and push down those homosexual feelings, but they still want to put it somewhere, and a girl won't let them. Okay. There's overwhelming body of scientific evidence showing human beings are causing the climate to warm, but this is the person we want in charge of the USDA, and it's part of his role would be to research to help farmers and ranchers adapt to climate change, and he's in denial of that, and he's worn many hats. He was evidently an Air Force fighter pilot. I'm assuming he was. If
he was in the Air Force, he must have been on one of those big jets, the ones that take a lot of fuel to get off the ground, because otherwise I don't think there's not a plane out there that would pick this guy's fat ass up off the ground.
I really don't want to fat shame, but yeah, his plane would have been in the Husky section of Sears. It just so
he has chins that have chins. His chin has got its own face. His chin has got its own smiley face.
I've got a very racist joke in my head, and it's giving me a headache right now. Never mind.
It reminds me of an episode of Family Guy when Peter had something on his chin. He goes, "Where did these come from?" And he puts them down in his pants.
Yeah, he says, "How did these get up here?"
Yeah.
He also taught economics and business at Morningside College in Sioux City, Iowa, which is, like a private college. But he's best known for hosting a conservative talk show, which he did that from 2010 to 2013, just before he had political ambitions that drove him out of the education and private sector. It was called Impact with Sam Clovis, and basically he was a birth certificate, show me your birth certificate, Obama. He made racially charged posts on his blog blog post, and he equated gays with pedophilia. And what gets me too is here he is supposed to be USDA proponent for the farmers, and he wants to do away with the insurance subsidies for the farmers. And his defense is that most of the farmers that I've met in Iowa would rather that the government wasn't involved in their crops. And I go, I'm sure they are, but I'm sure that they need that money to make it happen. I'm sure everybody would really like it if their farm not only made money, but they were rich and there was inheritance for their kids. But wishing it to be true and having money, no, there's a reason the government subsidizes these things. It's not just, and it's not just so the farmers can bring in their crops, it's so that we can afford to buy them.
To me, it sounds like this guy, what he wants to do is he wants to take that subsidy out of there because he wants to give it to bigger, industrial farms. He doesn't want to give, he wants to drive out the small family farm.
He probably wants, well, he probably has crony. I'm sure he does have cronies. This is another piece of poo that Trump is trotting out, and he's draining the swamp right into the White House again.
Yeah, that he is. Jeez Louise.
But not a scientist at all, but he's going to be in charge of,
Well, he hasn't been confirmed yet, so I'm hoping that they will find a way to get this guy away from this office. He deserves to be as close to this office as Trump does to the presidency, which is nowhere.
Yeah.
Another fat bastard.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. I think it's going to take more than a simple majority. I think it's going to take a 60% vote for this guy to be approved, hopefully.
Yeah, especially if with all the racist and bigoted things that he's said on his Facebook. I'm sure that's not going to come to light at all. Yeah, that
fake news.
Yeah, fake news. They'll put that out there, and this guy will get he'll backpedal until he gets to try to get away from it, and they'll hold his feet to the fire. I think that the Republicans, at least some of them are starting to see that Trump is a nightmare, and putting people like this in office, it's going to make this whole situation that much worse. So I don't see this guy making it, to be honest. I could be wrong, but
if he backpedals, we'll take his training wheels away.
Our former mayor, the guy that retired, he would put people in positions that didn't need to be there. The former police chief, actually it wasn't a police chief, it was somebody else. Anyways, the guy was a police officer, and he put him in charge of the Board of Education.
This guy
had no business being in there. Had no background in education, nothing.
What's he going to teach the kids? Guns 101?
I guess. This guy was heading the Board of Education? No.
More like profiling 101.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's just horrible.
It is.
Jeez Louise. Matt, you have a story for us, don't you? And this is going to be a really sad story, unfortunately. But, this is the world we live in today.
Unfortunately. This story comes out of upstate New York. A 10-year-old girl who was beaten repeatedly, forced to run with heavy packs, and dragged behind a car escaped her tormentors as they slept to ask a neighbor for help on Friday. 4 adults were charged after the bruised and malnourished girl escaped on Wednesday from her home in rural Oswego County, north of Syracuse. Her treatment, which included beatings with a tightly rolled newspaper wrapped with electrical tape, had apparently been getting worse since April. She just couldn't take it anymore. The girl was hospitalized with non-life-threatening injuries, but they said that the girl was forced to work outside clearing brush without access to water or a bathroom. She was served a single meal a day doused in hot sauce.
That's ridiculous. That's
like, what the hell are these people doing?
Yeah.
And when she physically couldn't continue, they tied a rope around her waist, tied that same rope to the bumper of the car, and began to pull her along. When she would drop, they would continue to drive, and she'd end up getting dragged.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That's horrible.
Yes. Well, here's the really bad thing about this. The girl had been singled out as a child who needed discipline.
Yeah, I saw that.
The girl's 34-year-old mother was involved in this as well.
Yeah. When I was reading this there, it said there was 3 adults that were charged. Sean Whaley, age 23, Brandy Shaver, age 18, and Gary Bulbus, whatever his name is, age 37. Bulbus had a relationship with the girl's mother, and his charge stems from the allegation that he forced a child hand into a hot water. They're all remanded to jail, fortunately. I'm looking at this story. I'm just like, the story has been corrected to show the girl was fed food doused in hot sauce, not that she was doused in hot sauce.
No, it was the food that she was eating was doused in hot sauce.
Yeah, I'm just reading the correction on the bottom there, because apparently there was an update on this story, at least a correction anyway. So I'm just reading that on the bottom there. That's all.
Yeah, I see it. This is just disgusting. I mean, what the heck is going through people's mind?
Yeah.
Your own daughter? Really?
Well, we've talked about religious people on this show where they don't take care of their kid, or for whatever reason, they take the kid to the priest or pastor or whatever, and they said, well, just pray over it and then let the child die. Well, there's one particular lady who did that. The child dies, but she was thinking that her child was going to come back to life after 3 days because she was told that by this religious nut. But she had her kids taken away from her completely. I'm hoping, it looks like they had 2 children based on this. There was a 3-year-old and her, the 10-year-old.
Yeah.
So I hope that these people have their children taken away from them. I generally don't.
No chance of getting them back. None.
Yeah, I hope they don't have any. I hope none of them. I hope they don't get them back ever. In fact, I would go so far as people who do this kind of shit should be chemically castrated so they can't have children anymore.
Yep. And they should not be able to adopt. They should not be able to be a foster. They should not be able to be in charge of children at daycare. You know what?
Yeah.
Actually, I think people like that should be put on Uranus. Because the shit comes out of Uranus, and that's a piece of shit for you.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous. I saw this last night when I got home. I went on Facebook and I saw this story. I'm like, oh my God.
This is horrible.
Yeah.
Life has to get better from here.
Well, yeah, but it's got to be damaging, you know? I mean,
yeah. Oh,
girl's going to have to go through a lot of therapy and all that stuff. And, you know, it's really sad.
Yeah, it is.
It really is.
10 years old. She should be in school and, you know, having fun with her friends and whatnot. And
well, this was summertime, so, you know, she probably wasn't in school.
Right. But still, I mean, this type of abuse shouldn't go on.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree.
While we are poking at your news, you can poke us at Facebook and Twitter, or poke us with an email at ppapodcast@gmail.com, or leave us a message at 662-709-PPAP. Join us live on YouTube/Packard Pokesat on Friday nights at 9 p.m. Central Time. Be part of the conversation by live chatting with us during the show. Enjoy the show? Help support us by becoming a monthly patron at patreon.com/Packard Pokesat. Or look awesome by buying something at cafepress.com/Packard Pokesat. No money, no problem. You can help us by sharing the show with friends and rate us on iTunes and Stitcher. For everyone that shares and rates us, you kick ass.
The Atheists,
the Bible,
and No Wardrobe, the podcast.
Wait a minute. No wardrobe? You mean we're going to be naked while we do this?
Well, seeing how I'm an atheist and I'm reading the Bible, and since clothes are flammable, fire, I thought it might be a good idea to take them all off first.
Naked or not, follow along as we read, analyze, and try to keep you from falling asleep as we go through this boring-ass book.
Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Spreaker. Who knows? We may even be on YouTube someday. Well, I've got a story here. You know, everybody's been hearing about Hurricane Harvey, right? Texas churches down there are suing the FEMA for excluding them for disaster relief grants. Apparently, 3 Texas churches damaged by Hurricane Harvey are suing the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, over their ineligibility applying for disaster relief grants. FEMA doesn't give money to religious organizations to avoid any excessive entanglement between church and state. So this is a church and state issue. This is not because, oh, we don't like your religion. This is just, you wanted to be separate from the state. This is what you get.
Right. They don't pay taxes or nothing.
That's right. You don't pay taxes.
That's
you don't.
What insurance is for.
That's right. But the churches say that's unfair discrimination. No, it's not. That's the same thing you've had throughout the last 200 some years of this country. What's especially interesting about this case is how the plaintiffs, aided by conservative lawyers at Packard, are citing the Supreme Court recent decision that Trinity Lutheran Church, I knew that this shit was going to come back and bite us in the ass, making their ruling basically on that case where they say, well, we want public funds to put down sawdust or whatever the shit.
Oh, it was the ground up rubber tires or something for the playground surface thing.
Yeah, for the playground surface. Yes.
Oh, come on.
Yeah, so it was that ruling that Missouri couldn't exclude churches from taxpayer-funded grants if the purpose was funding was secular, like renovating a playground. If they're refixing the church, which is what I'm sure they're going to say, then that would not be a secular activity. Dinah Vernum, an attorney with Beck was referring to the case when she said Hurricane Harvey didn't cherry pick its victims. FEMA shouldn't cherry pick who it helps, but FEMA's not cherry picking at all. Not everyone who gets to apply for grant money, it's that simple. The rules were decided in advance. It didn't seem to matter to these churches until they wanted a piece of the available cash. Using Trinity as a starting point, here seems to stretch the limits of that decision. 5 of the justices who ruled in favor of the Missouri church had made clear that the ruling applied only to the cases like a church playground where the benefits were secular. We haven't seen that decision applied in the federal level, but the FEMA case isn't naturally consequence of Trinity's. It's ridiculous for anyone to argue taxpayers should fund the rebuilding of churches, which would obviously benefit religion. And that's exactly what I just said. When no one would ask taxpayers to fund building of those churches in the first place. All right, let's put this into perspective for a second here. We have other religions down there, I'm sure. You know, like I'm assuming there's some mosques down there, right? Am I wrong? Do you think that there might be some Islam related or?
Yeah, there are actually. They reached out to a lot of people when in this disaster. I saw stories about mosques.
Exactly.
No, I didn't see anything about it, but I'm sure there are.
Oh yeah. I'm sure there are. That's my where I'm going here with my point is the fact is if there are mosques down there, if these religious churches, these Christian churches are put for the benefits, I say the mosques should also apply as well. And when they turn them down for the say, hey, it's because it's for your religion and you should not do it because of your religion, then they can apply that same standard to the Christian churches because we know for a fact. I don't know for a fact, but I am pretty confident in the fact is they will say no to the mosques. So they will have set precedent that they can't give money to religious churches, which is already precedent there, but they seem to think that they can do an end run around on this. Unless this gets taken out right away, they should use that as a basis. And if there's any Satanist churches down there that got hit by this, apply. I implore you to apply for the same thing. So this way, if they deny you, that they have no grounds to stand on to grant Christian churches any more leeway. They have, right. If they do, they are breaking the law and they are showing their favoritism towards one religion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like the next paragraph. Beckett tries to distract people from the issue by citing examples of the groups that get money despite offering supposedly useless things. FEMA has repeatedly denied disaster assistance funds to countless houses of worship. At the same time, FEMA gave aid to an octopus research center, a botanical garden, and community centers that provide sewing classes and stamp collecting clubs.
I got to stop for you for a second there. This person, he's using these as examples what they gave money to those things there.
Mm-hmm.
Any of those things religious? Is there an octopus religion? Is there a flower religion, botanical religion? Is there a sewing class religion? Is there a stamp collection club religion? Are any of those religious? No, they're not. So they have no grounds to stand on. He's shooting himself in the foot by even saying this.
Yeah, no. I like that in a paragraph. It says it's irrelevant that churches assisted in disaster relief. Paying for their churches would go directly towards helping them. Yeah, and it's like, no, you just don't understand how this works. If you want government funds, then you should pay taxes.
Yeah. I'm sure these places, they pay taxes. It says here, they throw certain groups under the bus saying, quote, they don't do anything important, but we do, so give us money, unquote. That's basically what it is. You know, I'm sure he's paraphrasing on that point, but that's what they're saying is like, well, these people, they don't do anything important. Oh, octopus research, that's not important. Stamp collecting, that's not important.
Do you think that possibly where this could go is more and more churches might decide to have, I don't know, schools in there or kitchens and things connected to their church so that they can point to that for subsidies and relief?
Oh, geez, don't give them any ideas. They'll say that the kitchen is
secular. Yeah, I don't think that would work because most churches do have something like that in there, and that's not going to make any difference.
Let's just put this as a let's talk type situation on that. Let's just say that they say, oh, well, the kitchen was damaged, but it's like right in the middle of the church or some part of the building. So they'll say, oh, well, we have to do this. We have to fix all this to get around to getting to that fix first. So they'll transfer more funds to those areas and say, hey, those particular areas needed to be fixed up first so we could fix the kitchen area. So they're going to inflate the cost.
Right. And most of those are usually in a church basement, at least the ones by me.
Yeah, exactly. I got another story here since we got a little bit of time. I don't know if everybody's heard about this. Hopefully everybody's heard about this. That the Trump administration, 15 states in the District of Columbia sued the U.S. government Wednesday to block President Donald Trump plan to end the protection against deportation for young immigrants whose New York Attorney General labeled the best America. The lawsuit filed in federal court in Brooklyn asked a judge to strike down the president's action involving the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program, program, or DACA. It called the move a culmination of the President Trump's off-stated comments to punish and disparage people with Mexican roots. The attorney who brought the lawsuit, all Democrats, represents states where the population of DACA participants, known as Dreamers, quote unquote, ranges from hundreds to tens of thousands, were brought to the U.S. illegally as children and came with families who overstayed their visas. Now, Trump's plan is cruel, short-sighted, and inhumane, and driven by personnel bias against Mexicans and Latinos. New York's Attorney General Eric T. Schumer said, now, I want to put something in perspective here. Let's just say, for shits and giggles, say that he's able to push this through and he doesn't get blocked. He's going to cost this country tens of billions of dollars in revenue based on this, because these people, while they're here, they're out helping and they're doing jobs and things like that, stuff that some white people, and I hate to say it like that, but some white people don't want to do because they think it's beneath them.
Yeah,
but most of these guys are getting paid in cash.
What guys are getting paid in cash?
Well, like people who work in restaurants, they're getting paid in cash.
Oh, with some
a lot of it's under the table money.
That happens in pretty much every business to some degree, I imagine.
Well, because a lot of them are illegal aliens. That's why.
Now, the thing is here with Trump, he thinks he's saving the country money by doing these things. He doesn't realize, or maybe he doesn't care. I've said that multiple times now. The fact is that he's costing this country even more money.
Penny wise and pound foolish.
Right. He's had several businesses that have gone belly up because he overpromises or he just doesn't understand the marketplace or whatever, and then his businesses have failed. He is making this country fail. We have never had anything like this before. This is just bizarre.
Well, of course it's costing the country money because now the taxpayers are going to have to pay for this lawsuit. 15 states are doing this now. Who knows? It might be another 10 or 15 states that are going to join it. So that's going to cost the taxpayers more money anyways.
And the thing is here, I mean, if we've got already 15 states, I mean, well, I'm willing to bet you that these 15 states are all democratically run. I'm not sure if any of the states that are Republican run are going to join in on this. But if they do, then you'd gain a lot more respect overall going up against this bigoted pile of crap.
Right. That's why I call him Jabba the Trump.
Yeah.
Plaintiffs are New York, Massachusetts, Washington, Connecticut, Delaware, D.C., Hawaii, Illinois, Iowa, New Mexico, North Carolina, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Virginia. California, one of the most solid Democratic states, was noticeably absent. California Attorney General Xavier Becerra plans to file a separate lawsuit because a quarter of the DACA recipients are California residents.
Oh, so he's still going to bring a lawsuit, but he's just going to bring a separate one along.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. I have one other story here I want to bring in since we still have a little time yet. Well, a few minutes anyway. Several months ago when Trump got into office, he unsubstantiated claimed that Obama had wiretapped him. The Justice Department looked into it, as they should have, and they said, never happened, dude. Never happened. Department affirms that no evidence Obama wiretapped Trump. The U.S. Department of Justice said they had no evidence to support the unsubstantiated claim back in March by President Trump that by his predecessor, Barack Obama, had ordered a wiretap. There has never been any evidence that supports Trump's assertion on Twitter that Obama tapped my wires or had my wires tapped. I'm sorry. There's this great picture that I have on my phone where it looks like I'm not sure what kind of monkey it is, but it's got the long round nose and it's orange colored, I guess.
Yeah.
Baboon. Yeah, maybe a baboon. It says, Obama tapped my phones.
Oh, God.
If you're watching this after I've edited and cleaned it up, you'll see that picture, by the way, just saying.
Okay.
But if you're not watching this on YouTube later, you won't see a picture. You'll have to find the picture yourself there. But it was funny. It was a great one that was going around the internet at the time. But anyway, but in the court filing late on Friday, the Justice Department added itself to the list of entries debunking the allegations. The FBI and the Justice Department National Security Division confirmed that they have no records related to wiretaps, as described by tweets from Trump posted on March 4th. The department said in a court filing in Washington. The filing was in response to the Freedom of Information Act lawsuit brought by American Oversight, a government watchdog group. We need that watchdog group to dig and keep digging constantly. Trump Tower's mixed up use of New York skyscraper is home to one of Trump's private residences and serves as his campaign headquarters during the election. The surveillance claim, which first appeared in conservative media before being picked up by Trump, of course, that's how he always got his news. It's like, the conservative media posts it, and like Breitbart or whatever. Oh, they must have tapped Trump's phones. Unsubstantiated claim, and then Trump goes, oh, they tapped my phones, and he puts it out. and the story gets bigger, and then they retweet what he said, so they just feed back into themselves. It's a self-feeding system. It's
a vicious circle.
Yeah, it's a big circle jerk is what it is.
A vicious circle jerk.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
now,
think about it,
Yeah, promoted by a rare rebuke by Obama, who responded at the time through a spokesman to denounce the idea that he had ordered surveillance against them, then candidate Trump, as simply false. In a statement, America Oversight said the Justice Department finally confirmed in writing that President Trump lied when he tweeted that the former President Obama wiretapped him at Trump Tower. Asked for a comment, the White House spokeswoman said on Saturday, "This is not news. We answered this weeks ago." Baloney. You did not. You did not. You lying sack of monkey shit. Despite the lack of evidence, the White House for several weeks attempted to bolster the baseless claims, and it helped fuel the unsubstantiated claim by Devin Nunes, the Republican chairman of the U.S. House of Representatives Intelligence Committee, who, whether the Obama administration improperly unmasked surveillance intercepts of phone conversations between Trump associates and had with foreigners. Ugh, that is beyond the pale. I am glad that this finally came out, where they basically have pointed out how ridiculous and how much of a lying sack of garbage that Trump is. Not that we didn't already know that. But the fact is that we have now even more proof that he is a lying sack of garbage.
He's been a lying sack of garbage ever since he became, when he started campaigning.
Yeah.
He's always been that way.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Anything that comes out of his mouth, I hold no truth to it.
Don't broken watch right twice a day unless it's digital.
Yeah. Then they just get flashing 12.
No.
Just a black screen.
Yeah. Well, before we get going here, I do want to say that there will be no live show on Friday because I had a death in the family over this last week, and I'm going to be out of town this weekend. So I'm not going to be able to edit and clean the show up and get it ready for broadcast. However, don't think that you are not going to get a show, because we had the show with the Brainstorm crew last week. And again, as much fun as we had with the Brainstorm crew, and I had a blast. We had an absolute blast with them. The audio, for whatever reason, because Google Hangouts is a big pain in the butt when it records for some weird reason, it caused the audio to be really, really sketchy, really horrible. And it took me hours and hours, days actually, to get the audio cleaned up. With that said, there will be a podcast that's going to come out on Friday for that, and there will be some extra bits from the show that didn't get posted up on last Fridays or last Saturdays or Mondays or whenever I got it out anyway. So there'll be a couple extra pieces going up on YouTube, and there will be a podcast, but it's about hour and 45 minutes long. So you got about 36 minutes this last Friday for the audio show. And I deeply apologize for the audio quality. That's never happened before. I have no idea what caused that. But the second half of the show, about 10, 15 minutes in, the audio seems to settle down a little bit for a little while, but it's still kind of hard to listen to. So, but you will have a show, so we'll have something to listen to for next Friday. So, and I've labeled that one episode 10, so that one will be its own episode in itself. So, but we'll have that out for you, so you will not be without an episode for the week. And as always, listen to the Atheist, the Bible, and No Wardrobe podcast, which is a new episode, will be out on Thursday. And I appreciate everybody who stuck around with me on Patreon, even though we were going to start charging per episode now. So thank you for that. So we'll be back next week, live Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central. So we'll see you then. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
And that's a wrap.